on tonight's video.
Hi, my name is Jim, and this is my cancer story.
Hello everybody, it's Mike, the Baldadonis. Boom! If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Mike the Baldadonis, and I talk about many different topics. Sharing life experiences, one video at a time is my motto. I talk about me being in my early 20s doing 5 years and 3 months in prison for a first-time drug offense. Only to get out unhappy with my body, I decided to do steroids, gain 105 pounds of pure muscle only to have a heart attack and other steroid-related health issues. I currently deal with migraines and vertigo from today's environmental pollution, today's foods, and VOCs. I buy and sell cars as a hobby, and I bring you guys along with me showing you the pros and cons of each vehicle that I buy. I have Dr. Peter Pococo, he's my mentor, the reason why I'm on YouTube, and he talks about inspiration. I have Gary from the gym, he talks about conspiracy theories, and I bring other people on board sharing their interesting life stories as well. Before Jim's story, I'm going to keep this brief. My channel is about everything and anything. The main reason why I do YouTube is because I have suicidal thoughts from medications that doctor prescribed me for having severe vertigo or dizziness. That started back in 2013, 2014. I build all kinds of cars, motorcycles, race cars, hot rods, rat rods, classic VWs, whatever. I love all cars. I'm a gearhead. Somewhere down the line of building these cars, I don't know, it's from stripping paint, the smells of all the chemicals, I started getting severe dizziness. And VOCs that are in your house, volatile organic compounds, it's all man-made stuff that's put on everything and anything, and it's a chemical. And for a good solid 5 years, I had severe dizziness and vertigo, migraines. It's just a complete mess, okay? But when a doctor gives you medications that may help you, well, I was taking a chance, and the neurologist gave me Topamax. Before that was amitriptyline. As soon as I started taking Topamax, suicidal thoughts. Now, I got off that drug pretty quickly, but the suicidal thoughts stayed with me. Doing the YouTube keeps my mind active. I get to tell my stories. I get to bring people on board sharing their interesting stories, and that's what keeps me from, thinking of bad thoughts. Now, when I started this channel 2.5 years ago, I was using my old cell phone. Just like anybody else, for the most part, they use their cell phone. And I went to the gym talking to many different people about their interesting life stories. And Jim was one of my first guests. And talking about health concerns, well, I think that's a big, not big, but it's definitely overlooked on YouTube for information. If somebody can share their personal experience with a cancer or illness or whatever it is, I think that's relatable to other people, where if they're searching online for that particular thing that's wrong with them, there's somebody that's relatable to them, and they can watch their video and feel not alone. So that's why I do my videos. Okay, so I want to thank you guys, and I want to thank Jim for doing this video. Until the next video, everybody, Baldadonis out.
I got a call on my cell phone from the PCP, and they're like, yeah, we need to do one of your blood work, some more blood work over. One of them, there's a level on one of them, and it looks a little high, so we just want to double check. So we want you to come and make an appointment. And we'll have you make the appointment with the hematology oncology department, and that's right there in Londonderry, the dana-farber. I didn't think anything of it. I figured, well, it's a blood place. Okay, so when we get back from the trip, I made the appointment and did the blood work. It's like some blood work. They put it in a phoresis machine and it spins, and they have to heat it and do something. But what they're looking for was this M protein, they call this some mitochondrial something. So they call it M protein. So I guess it was higher than it should be. And that's how it started. So I went into to the oncology to see an oncologist after the results of them redoing the blood, and he says, okay, we need to do a bone marrow biopsy. I want to get into how painful that is, because there's no anesthesia. They just dig into your pelvis with like a tiny little spoon or something. It's just like, the pain is excruciating. I don't recommend having that on purpose. But that's how they can tell for sure. So they take the sample of the bone marrow biopsy, which is really gross. You can see them putting it in a little jar. They send it out. That tells you that tells them exactly if you have it. And they came back, and as it turns out, I was positive for multiple myeloma. So they said, well, the course of action is to start chemotherapy. Infusion. So that's what I did, because that's what are you going to do? It's either that or the numbers will keep going up and then you'll just die. So the idea is to try to kill the cancer, like any chemotherapy would do with anybody. So I did that for several months, like 2-3 times a week. Very, very expensive too. The copay, I'm not going to get into that. My copay, it was like $5,000 maxed for 2 years. Then the oncologist said, you can do, he said, you can do a stem cell transplant if you want, your own stem cells. There's 2 kinds, someone else's and your own. And that usually, slows it down. And so you don't have to keep doing infusion, because when you do that, you're sick, you don't feel good for days. It's horrible. It's horrible. So I finally said, okay, I'll opt to do that. So in this cancer story I'm telling you, the next step is to get my stem cells out of my body. So I don't know how they do this, but it's amazing. So I go, I have, for 3 days, they put 10 shots under my arm, both arms. And I guess that draws your stem cells out of your bone marrow into your bloodstream. So that's what I did, and then I waited a week, and then something like that. Then went into Boston, Brigham and Women's, for 2 days, 8 hours a day. They put an IV in each arm, and then they run it through a centrifuge machine, and it draws out the stem cells. It's like, so you're there for 8 hours. So that kind of was weird and sucked, of course. So they had enough for 2 stem cell transplants when they were done. They needed X amount to do it. I don't know, X amount of billion. So then the next step was, okay, so that's done. They have it. It's stored. It's frozen. So what they want to do now is to give you mega doses of chemotherapy to kill all your cells in your body, not just enough, to keep the cancer at bay. So that's what they did. And when they did that, of course, your hair falls out. It's like I'm in the bathroom, just like combing it, and it's gone. So I had enough in there where it really compromises your immune system. So, anyways, I went into Brigham and Women's into a quarantine floor for doing these transplants, and so I was told you're going to be in there for 3 weeks, quarantine, and you're only on that floor. You can walk around the floor, but you're in that room. You can't leave. And so what they first do is a 4-hour procedure. It's really weird. You're like half awake, half asleep. You're like in one of those Three Stooges movies where your head's in a vice and it's cranked, and they're carefully for 4 hours putting in a port into my heart. And so they can do like blood, they can take blood out and without having to keep stabbing you, and put in, chemo and do it. So anyways, when they put the port in, there's like 5 dangling rubber hoses sticking out of your chest. So when that was done, then I went into the quarantine room, and then the next day or something, I think they put in, like, that's when they doused my whole body with chemo and killed all my cells. So I had there was no stem cells, no cells of any type. So like any vaccines you've had or anything, it's all gone. It's just like being newborn. So once they do that, they take them all out. Now they start fresh. They take the stem cells that they took from me. There's a name for it, I forget, but it's your own stem cells. They reintroduce them, and over like a day or so. And what it does is once they're back in you, your body starts to double them, and then double them again and again and again. They take what they put in there and they reproduce, but they have to be a certain level before you can leave, and that's where the 3 weeks comes in. You meet the minimum requirement. What a long 3 weeks, and a lot of testing and such. Then when I finally got out, I don't know what drugs they had me on, but they weren't happy drugs. I was all messed up. I was so messed up, my kids didn't even know, they didn't even know who I was. Like, in other words, I wasn't even me. I didn't even know what I was saying or doing. So my 2 kids, thank God, made it an emergency appointment with the oncologist, Dr. Eckstein, who was very good. I really trusted him. He's been there from the start. They said, you got to reduce something and get him off of, he's too, he's argumentative and it's like hostile, he doesn't even know what he's doing. And then, as a result of that, that's that nice little girl that had me take the physical. She's like, I'm out of here. Even though she, prior to the stem cell, was like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I think she meant to say right now. But anyways, so he did something, and then so I had to be out of work for 4 months. And because I worked for the Postal Service, I accumulated sick leave, so I didn't lose a paycheck. I was okay, because I had the time. But I had to be out for a minimum of 4 months, stay in the house, take all these weird post-stem cell transplant drugs. So that's what I did. And then I went back to work, and from the stem cell on, I really wasn't right. And that was done the stem cell transplant was done in June of 2011, almost like a year after the physical, because I was technically diagnosed in August of 2010, so about 10 years ago. I was so messed up. I couldn't even do my job. I always felt like out of it, and not in a good way. So it was a whole bad experience. So as of in December 2012, I had stopped everything. I said, I'm not taking any more of this stuff. And then I started to get my sense of humor, my brain back, and started to be more positive. And the stem cell transplant did work. For about a year and a half, the levels were normal, as a normal person would have for the M protein. Then I would go every month for blood work. My daughter would come with me. The doctor said the levels are starting to rise a little. So he suggested to take chemotherapy tablets called Revlimid, which is very highly toxic. But it's capsules, and that will help. So he put me on this dose, 15 milligrams, that would help keep the levels, down. Because if they go up, then you got to try something else. But he was very positive. He said, we've got a closet full of new drugs all the time, but let's start with this and see how you react to it. Because everyone reacts differently. Everybody's body's different. They need different drugs, even for the same cancer. So it seemed to do the job, but so he had me doing this for 3 weeks of the 15 milligram and 1 week off to give your body a break, and then 3 weeks on again. But I'm telling you, that stuff, gives you muscle weakness, get tired, and I told him all the time, I said, this stuff makes me feel really loopy, and not in a good way. It's like you're kind of cloudy, because it's poison. So that's the story there. So after, I don't know how long, he said 2 years on it, but then he changed his story. He said 2 years later, I'm like, oh, what's going on? He said, well, I think you got to keep you on it forever. He says, people that got off it, their numbers started to shoot up again. So I said, okay, this is what I want to do. I want you to put me on a lower dose. And you know, he'll do whatever I want. He doesn't recommend it, but he put me on 10 milligrams. So I did that for same deal, 3 weeks on, one off. So it was, the levels stayed the same when they checked the blood work. There's no trace of the M protein, or normal levels as they call it, and no abnormal. So being my own advocate, cutting out 5%, that's a third less. I felt a lot clear-headed, and a little more energy. And then about 2 years ago, I was having a discussion with a girl that I was seeing, about because she could tell when I was on my on cycle with the Revlimid and the off cycle, and I guess I wasn't very nice when I was in the on cycle. So we were thinking, okay, let's suggest, how about we do 15 days on and 15 off instead of 3 weeks on, 1 off. And I said, that's a good idea. So I brought it up to the oncologist. I said, the same 10 milligrams, and I want to do 15 and 15. That way it's easy to remember. And he said, okay. He wasn't going to argue at all. He said, because I was, after years, he says, you're a boring patient. And I said, that's a good thing, because my levels were staying down. So that's where I'm at right now. So I take 15 days on, 15 off. And it's been just about 10 years since this cancer. And I will, and he says, well, we don't have any studies that show that this, what happens when you lower, because that's what they suggest. They really don't know. Everything is like I said, well, good, then this will be a study that you can put in the books, so when someone else gets it, you can say, hey, this person, took a lower dose in less time, and his levels stayed the same. But it depends on your health, too. Not everyone can have a stem cell transplant unless you're healthy enough, and I was sort of fit for 55 because that's how old I was at the time. So that for me worked, and it's still working. And I'm thinking of next summer, perhaps when this whole COVID-19 shit's over, of either having him lower the dose again, and maybe do 3 weeks on, 1 off with 5 milligrams, or perhaps just a longer stretch between starting up again. But I want to adjust it down again and go from there, just because it's poison. They tell you have to order it every month. You got to go through the survey. They ship it in FedEx from across the country. It's not like you go to Rite Aid and give them a prescription. It's poison. It's toxic. And the 3 main side effects, and they tell you this every time: heart attack, stroke, and blood clots. I said, yep, those are my 3 favorite out of the whole list of them. And they send you it every time, and you gotta go through this long questionnaire every month. But I do what I have to do, and if the levels start going up, I'll deal with it then. But in the meantime, what are you gonna do? You gotta do what you gotta do. And, make the best of it, and that's what I do. I don't whine about it like, oh, why me? Why not me? So I wish I don't want anyone else. All kinds of people have all kinds of different cancers, and this is a blood cancer, so there's no cure. It's incurable. They tell you that. It's a matter of time, but I could still go perhaps another 10 years maybe. You don't know with this one. They're all different, and they're always coming up with new studies on various blood cancers, lymphoma, leukemia, and different things like that. They do a lot of research. So I'm just doing my thing and making the best of it and staying positive. But that's kind of that's the drawn out story from the beginning to the end. And yes, you do go through those stages like everyone does with every cancer, no matter what cancer they have. It's like, oh shit, the shock, and then now what? Then the pity, and then taking care of it, and then let's get on with life and make the most of it, because you're not gonna whining about it's not going to change anything. So you do what you got to do and try to stay positive and make the best of it. What else can you do? How this came on, and that's a good question. And how did I know I had it? I'm glad you asked that question, Mike, because I was at the time I was playing tennis quite a bit. Singles, doubles, because I was fit, and I would go to the gym as well. So I was in good shape. But I was playing tennis, and like doubles is very easy compared to singles because you don't run as much. And my son was having me and another friend of mine do some drills, running around the court, hit the ball run, and even playing doubles in a game. I was getting out of breath and winded, and it's like, I don't know what's going on. It's not like I don't do cardio. I mean, doing tennis for since I was 31. And even my son noticed. He said, what's wrong with you? He said, you could do some more cardio or something. He said, you're breathing heavy, you're getting out of breath. What's up? I said, I don't know. I just running, and then I just can't, I have a hard time catching my breath. And the reason I bring that up is because, all right, so now to find out that the cancer, the only way the cancer was detected was early detection by accident via the blood work that they did at that physical in July of 2010. They must have tested for everything, and that M protein must have been one of the things that they tested. And when the levels were up, that raised a flag with them, which is good because that's early detection. And most people find out about multiple myeloma when their back actually breaks, because what it does is the multiple myeloma cells eat away at your bones, and it usually affects the back. So it thins the bones, and then their back like breaks. Not like it breaks and they're paralyzed, but it breaks like where the pelvis and so forth is connected. And that's when they usually find out that someone has multiple myeloma. It's because the bones actually get worn and thin from being eaten away from this cancer. But by them checking that blood work, they detected, especially when they ended up doing 3 bone marrow biopsies. When they did another one, that's when they said, yes, you have it. So they caught it early. So number one, in my case, I was healthy, so I could do my stem cell transplant when it came to it. Number 2 was early detection. And number 3 is because I lift weights like forever, my bones were really, really, really strong. I mean, the 3rd bone marrow biopsy was done by this young doctor in Boston, and it bent the tool, which for me, I mean, that kind of hurt, but it was good. That means, he says, what do you have, titanium bones? But that's a good thing, because having strong bones, it's like a blood cancer that eats at your bones. So I had that going for me. So, and then when we did research, it's like shortness of breath is one of the signs of multiple myeloma. That's what happens to you. So that explains getting out of breath, playing tennis. But I didn't know I had cancer at the time, but I did have it. And that explained that symptom. There's probably other symptoms that I don't know about, but it clicked after the fact. I'm like, well, that explains. That's why I was out of breath. It wasn't because I wasn't fit. It was because of the cancer that was in my body that I didn't know about. Yeah, so here's another footnote. I was just talking to Mike off film here, is that when they do the bone marrow biopsy, they can send it to a particular lab that tells you if you are a good candidate to have the bone marrow, the stem cell transplant, by sending the bone marrow to a lab, and they do certain testing. I guess, I don't know if it's genetics or what. And mine came back where they said you would be a good candidate for it, along with being healthy enough and so forth, and passing enough air, oxygen saturation testing and that kind of thing. But it said you'd be a good candidate, so that's why I went forward with it. So I guess I'm lucky in that sense. There's a lot of variables to it, but that's my story with that. But I've gone to many cancer support groups after, in London area when they had them. In the beginning, it was helpful and stuff, but I would go to try to be positive for other people, because they have all different cancers and they're all different stages. So I always joke, appropriate joking, and talk with them and try to make them feel better, because I felt okay in my particular cancer, and everyone's different. But there was a woman in there who had had a stem cell transplant from a donor. But I don't know what the deal is, but when you have it from someone else, it's just like having an organ transplant. You get rejection. Your body rejects it because it's not your own stem cells. So she was constantly on drugs to stop the rejection. But in the meantime, she was always out of it, crying. She gained a ton of weight. She couldn't stop. Her emotions were all messed up. Didn't matter what they gave her for drugs. And I think she ultimately passed away. So, you know, someone, it's like any donor from your own, that's not your own body. You know, you read about people, they lose a finger, you know, and they take a toe and put it on there and it grows and works because it's all your own same DNA. Once you start taking someone else's, they have to constantly put you on anti-rejection drugs, and that's where the problem lies because that affects your whole body. So,
Yeah, that's like,
yeah.
yeah, do you want to deal with this or?
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that if it was an option, you know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done.
That's awful. Now you're taking a medication because you have somebody else's DNA in you.
Yes, exactly right, Mike. Exactly right. Yeah, and you know, it's doing your own. I don't know what it's weird because another thing while I'm on here is after I finally was done with the transplant and my cells were getting up there and up there, I had to start taking, it was over a course of a year, I think 13 or 17, what do you call it, immunizations. I had to start, just like a baby. You have no, your immune is zero until you build up. So I did like chicken pox, mumps, measles, every vaccine that you would have as a child and throughout your life had to be done all over again because it wipes out everything in your body. And that was, so they did it over a course of time. You know, they give you 5 at one time. They give you too much at one time for your body to take. But it's just like you're starting all over again. Weird.
Wow.
Yeah.